what I'm going to do here is label the high in the PM session and label the low. If there's a first presented fair value gap, we're going to do the same. I can see that we have that right here. So anything from the left, see that right there. We'll make this one white. Right. So what do we see? The PM high start. Price goes lower, 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 lower. Obviously it wanted to go somewhere. And we can see the high of the AM session. Market then goes higher, taking out afternoon range high. Also, we took out liquidity up here and quickly wanted to reach down lower. We can see that our trend line going up is also broken, and we also had an imbalance. We had this one up here that has yet to be filled, but I don't want to mark my chart too much. See, first presented fair value gap causes price to drop lower from what we're observing. I really like price doing this twice, and now we have somewhat of a trend line going on, and we can see that everything in here is balanced except for this 1 minute sell side imbalance. So this is just a test recording. I'm not taking any trades, but we're just observing price. That's basically, you know, if the price wants to go up higher from here, that's okay. All we want to do is observe what happens when it hits this first level, then the PM low, then the first presented fair value gap, and then the high of PM. And then as it's doing that, obviously there's going to be a trend line going on. But what we're looking for is for the market to give us a clear indication that, okay, we're no longer respecting buy program conditions, and figure out what exactly is that. So as we can see, we do have fair value gaps, right? BISIs, buy side imbalance inefficiencies, and that would include an up close candle that shows speed and provides a gap, as we can see right here. So we see this candle go up in speed very fast, creating a gap. This candle's high, this candle's low is what creates it. The second one just provides the stepping stool. And now if we were really in a buy program reaching for higher levels, we would want to respect these levels. So specifically for a fair value gap that's bullish, we really don't want to see price go below half of this fair value gap. It can, but if price is very bullish and it really wants to reach a higher level, it's not going to want to do that. Sometimes it could be that the bodies of the candles of price goes below, sometimes creating a wick below the fair value gap, but the bodies of the candles stay in here, resulting into higher prices. What we don't want to see, if we're a buyer and observing that, bodies of the candles closing below this fair value gap. But this is just a waiting game to identify what price is doing. How does it react off of this fair value gap? So we'll just keep an eye on this. And what we want to then do is to see if we create more fair value gaps as we climb higher. And at the same time, not break any trend lines, right? Because I'm sure you guys all know what trend line conditions look like. We have a lower low, higher highs, right? So for example, we have a low, we have a higher low, we're making higher highs and higher lows, making our trend line go up. We can see that these lows just keep on going higher and higher. What would break this would be something like this. We don't want to see this occurring in price. The market makes a higher low, makes a higher high, but then we can see that it goes and makes a lower low, not a higher low. So this is where we can find our setup, where then the market can do somewhat of a retest type of thing, where it sees if there's rejection in this area. So now instead of higher highs, we're making lower highs and lower lows. And usually what we target is liquidity that's resting in the marketplace. But basically that is the structure that we're looking for a trade setup. All right, so as we can see here, what I'm observing is we don't necessarily have any higher lows that formed in here. So I don't necessarily see any breakup structures. Highest low that I see right now that's actually influential would be this blue line. But like I said before, I do want to see a close below that, and we can see that there wasn't any close below, but there was close and open right at it. So now what I would want to change is we have low, higher low, higher low, higher low, and now this is our highest low, and we're gonna wait for this to break. Okay, so we're gonna take not a paper trade, since I only do that live. But what I am going to do is going to simulate a trade as if I were. And basically, this is going to be the entry. If price closes below this low, this higher low that we see, we are going to target this low. Although I would probably go lower, what we can target could be potentially here. But I don't want to go that far. So low-hanging fruit, as ICT would say it, we can target these lows. And that's only if price closes below this higher low. And my stop loss is going to be in this imbalance. It should be up here, to be honest. That'd be like a low-hanging fruit objective. So my stop is going to be somewhere around there. So let's see what price actually does. As we're approaching this higher low now, like I said, if we have the price close below this higher low, I am not taking paper trade, but this would be a practice trade as if I were. The reason I'm not taking a trade is since we're not in actual trading hours where my trade would actually work a lot better. So that would be in New York time. Basically, what I'm waiting for is for a strong close below these lows. I was going to take a trade here when this candle closed here, and then if I were to go down lower, obviously I did not. So I'm just waiting for these two lows. We have this one and this one for it to really show me that it actually wants to do something. But so far, trade has not been entered mentally, so we'll just keep on waiting and keep on sitting on our hands. Obviously, looking at this chart and not seeing a close below these lows, I don't think the trade setup is going to end up going through, which is totally fine. What I do expect though, just to confirm, this trade setup is going to most likely fail. We didn't really break structure. As you can see, we still have higher lows. Even though these lows got broken, right? This is the one that really is holding price up in a way, which is totally fine. Doesn't mean that our strategy didn't work. What I was looking for was something more like this, where price kind of looks like this on the other chart. And we can see that this was the higher low, the highest low. And we can see that we broke that. And then we also broke this one. So that's what I was kind of looking for. And we can see we didn't really have one up here. We had the lowest one was right here, which is a little too far out. But we're just going to see if price wants to reach this high. And if it does, we're just going to close it there. After Friday's trading. So I just wanted to quickly show what price actually did afterwards. And I think a big reason on why my trade didn't necessarily, or not my trade, but my strategy didn't necessarily work when I was looking at it, which was down below here. And we can see that, you know, I did eventually end up taking this high and then kept on going higher. But I was looking over my video earlier and also my other videos that I had before explaining my strategy, and I remember hearing myself say multiple times that my strategy works the best when it's inside trading hours, so in New York time. So that would include, you know, during the opening to the close of 10 a.m. and my best entry points would be after, you know, 10 a.m. closes. Not necessarily the market closes, but, you know, 10 a.m. hits, and then that's when my strategy tends to actually do what it's supposed to do. And we can see over here at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, it did not work. So I just wanted to quickly show you that we kept on supporting this trend line, right? Kept on going higher. And this is our PM session high and low. We can see that price hit the high, went back down close to the low. This was our first percentage fair value gap during that PM session as well. Now we're getting closer to, New York Open, and we can see right off the bat, big wick price gets supported. We make another high, taking out these highs, big drop down lower, right? So when we're in here, I am not necessarily trying to place a trade in between these two white lines, which is 9:30 open and 10 o'clock, right? So we're waiting until 10 o'clock closes and then trying to scope out what the price is doing, what is the market doing, in order for us to then enter the market and target other days, highs and lows. And what we're looking for is that break of structure, right? So we have a low, higher low, and we can see that this one gets broken. This one as well gets broken, right? So we see the closure down here, we see the closure down here, and this is where we would look for an entry, right? Because we have the break of structure, and then we include a fair value gap. It could be a sell side imbalance, it could be an inversion, but if we're going to label out that imbalance, it would be this one right here. And then obviously if this entry was here, we wouldn't really want to target the AM low. It's not that many points for us, but we can see that if we go to even further, we could have tried aiming for AM high on the 12th, which was on Wednesday, but even then, it didn't hit our target. So that's where 130 comes into play. But looking at this, we can see that price kind of, made a high, came back down lower, very choppy until finally 2 o'clock hit. We still consolidated right after that, came back down, first presented fair value gap. We also have a bullish fair value gap in here as well, and then resulting into higher prices until the closing on Friday. So now we want to see how the market opens on Sunday. So with that being said, the main point of this video that I made was initially I was trying to see whether I can find a trade, not necessarily take a trade, but just observe price and see whether I can find that same entry and same trade that I took on video that's named trade number 1. I wanted to see if I can find that pattern again, but during this video that I'm making right now, I saw the pattern, but it didn't necessarily hit my conditions that it needs to hit, and we didn't end up taking any fake trades. But then eventually what I thought was, okay, well, it didn't work here. I wonder where it will finally work. And we can see that it didn't work until 10 o'clock, right after the first 30 minutes of trading. And like I said before, I've heard myself say multiple times that my strategy works best during the morning after the opening in New York time. And now that I know that, that's how we're going to be taking our trades